Covalent compound, we must first be able to identify it. What does a covalent compound consist of? Well, if we have two nonmetals, we have a covalent compound. And how do we know that something is a nonmetal? For that, we need to go ahead and look at the periodic table. Elements to the right of the staircase are nonmetals, and hydrogen is also nonmetal, even though it doesn't look like it's to the right of the staircase. So, for example, if we have a molecule such as NO2, we can notice that nitrogen is to the right of the staircase, it's here, and so is oxygen. Since we have two nonmetals, we know that this compound is covalent, and we will know to name it a certain way. In order to be able to name it, I'm going to go ahead and show you the steps that we can learn. Naming covalent compounds is easier than ionic, so it should not be too much trouble. Step number 1, we will name the first element plus prefix. There are certain cases where we will not use prefix, and I will tell you when. And this will be followed by naming the second element, name of the second element. But the second element, we have to change its ending to "ide," IDE, and we will include the prefix as well. What does it mean, second element with "ide"? Well, let's look at a couple examples. For example, if my second element is nitrogen, instead of nitrogen, I'm going to say nitride. I'm changing its ending to "ide." Oxygen will become oxide, fluorine will become fluoride, and so on. What do I mean when I wrote prefix? Prefixes identify the number of atoms of the element in the formula. In order for us to name correctly, we must also know prefixes. If we have one atom of the element, this is called mono, 2 is di, 3 is tri, 4 is tetra, 5 is penta, 6 is hexa, 7 is hepta, 8 is octa, and I think that's all you have to know in terms of prefixes. And the last rule that you need to know is that we should never use mono, we should never use prefix mono for the first element. If the first element has only one atom, we just name it without a prefix. Let's go ahead and look at some examples in order to practice our newly learned skills. Let's look at the example of NO2, the one I wrote above. Again, we look at the formula, we identify that both nitrogen and oxygen are nonmetals. Therefore, this is a covalent compound, and we will name it as such. Nitrogen does not have a subscript next to it. Therefore, there's only one atom of it, and we know that we should never use mono for the first element, so we will just write nitrogen. It does not have a prefix because there's only one of it there. Now the second element is oxygen. We need to name the second element with ending "ide." It becomes oxide, and we also have to use prefix. There is a little 2 next to the oxygen, signifying that there are 2 atoms of oxygen in this formula. For 2, there is a prefix di, so we will say dioxide. Let's go ahead and look at some other examples. Let's say I have S2F6. Again, we start by identifying whether this compound is covalent or not. Well, S is sulfur and is found here, and F is found here. They're both to the right of the staircase. They're both nonmetals, therefore it is a covalent compound. Let's go ahead and name it now. S is sulfur. There is a little 2 next to it, therefore we must include its prefix. It's di, sulfur. And F is fluorine. We need to change its ending to "ide." It becomes fluoride, and it also has 6 to it. and therefore we use the prefix hexa. Disulfur hexafluoride. Now, if a name is given to us for a covalent compound, it's very easy to write its formula as well. Let me give you an example. Let's say we are given name carbon dioxide. How do we write this formula? Well, we write the formula as the name tells us. Carbon is carbon, oxide is oxygen, and di means there are two oxygens, so it becomes CO2. Let's also do nitrogen, trichloride. Again, nitrogen is just N. And next is this trichloride. Chloride comes from chlorine, Cl. And tri means there are three of it, so we put a little tree next to it. I hope you found this lesson helpful, and please have a magnificent and awesome chemistry day.